Hello, how are you? I hope you can hear me. Uh, yes, today we will talk about tenders, tender preparation and tender process in the construction sector. First of all, I want to introduce myself. My name is Aydın Özçekiç. I'm the founder of Botmore Technology. And in my background, I'm civil engineer. I worked on construction sector more than 10 years. And last 6 years I'm just focusing on construction technology area. But my first years of in my career, I was working as a tender preparation expert. So this process is so interesting. I always curious about how I can use different technologies in the tender process because, as you know, tender is uh, very compact type of business because you have to finish the project in a short time. You have to prepare your offer precisely, but you don't have time, you don't have enough resources, and you have to grasp all project in a very limited time. There are a lot of challenges in tender process for both tender preparation experts and on the other side who are managing the tender. Owners are working very hard to manage the tender. So it's not easy process, and it's so important for a company because if you want to earn money, you have to give a good offer, good tender to the projects, uh, and it's very critical for the success. So I want to share this. I have an article about tender process, tender or gamble. In this article, I generally talk about how we can manage tender better and more effectively. As I said, with limited information in an inadequate in the time, you should decide on a price point that makes profit, and at the same time, it should be lower than the competitors. So it's not easy to do that, as you predict, because sometimes you win the tender, the project. It's wonderful, but there's money on the table. What I mean, money on the table, you worked on an offer, made estimations, and gave an offer, and you won. However, although you won the job, you could be sad because the second best offer can be a very the price level of the second offer can be higher. And this means that there's a money on the table. You can give a higher offer and you can win. You can still win. So in my professional life, there were occasions I felt like that. So the tender process is related to various variables, and controlling these variables aren't always easy. So my professional experience in my early career, we make different offers, and sometimes we feel not comfortable about our price, and you can win or you can lose. But when you don't feel comfortable about your cost, about your price, uh, it is not a good thing for the company for the long term because you should understand why you are giving that kind of price. So first thing is the cost calculation. You can think it's just a bit straightforward. Yes, you will make a quantity takeoff, then you will make costing, you will take some offers from subcontractors, you will combine them and you will prepare your offer. Of course, from the suppliers you will work, you will take offer. And it seems a very straightforward process, but unfortunately, in limited time, and you don't know the project exactly well because there's a project and you have a limited time, you couldn't understand what is going on there. So in that point, you can sometimes miss some points which are very critical about the cost. Uh, there's different contract types. So in different contract types, you should have different strategies. But in some points, you have to make some designs to solve the problems, and in these designs not so detailed. And of course, this creates pressure on the cost calculation, and you can make a lot of mistake. You can miss some points. Depending on the quality of tender documents, cost diversion can reach 15% of the project. This is a high diversion from the real price. So and the cost calculation is the base of the tender preparation. If you make mistake in the cost calculation, and then you will add profit risk ratios, and at the end it will be more severe to give the right offer. And of course, different disciplines work together to solve a tender. Um, and each discipline, for example, mechanical people or civil engineers, architects, looks different angles to the project, and they try to put their risk to the project together, and it starts to be a very not a uh, complete idea about the project. They create different part. They try to solve different parts of the project, and it starts to be very chaotic because uh, you couldn't grasp all the project. And you should understand the relations between different disciplines, and you should understand the lines interface between the different disciplines. It is important to manage the project. And for the tender process, it is important because if you don't do this, you can make a big loss about the cost calculation. So cost calculation, of course, there are different tools. If you start to look from technology side, yeah, we can use different tools. But basically, everybody uses Excel because you need a very practical tool to make the quantity take off and to use it and multiply it with the unit rates and to create our cost structure. And of course, there is a different tools to do it. But basically, we are creating a database. I think one of the main problem is we should, for a company, for the tender preparation, we should have a database which we can update regularly, and we can use this database to make good prediction about the cost for our cost calculation. But in the point, you will have some gaps in the cost calculation because yes, your projects can be a bit similar, but it's not easy to calculate all different items in a project. So to handle this gap, you can use different tools again, but you can use some AI tools because uh, I think that one of the most important thing to see the big picture. We can make, of course, we can use down to abstract structure for the calculation. We can start from the unit rates and go to, of course, total cost. It's a good way if you can do this. But in a tender process, in a short term, you should understand your limits. So you can use that top-down strategy. What I mean, if you are doing same kind of projects and you have a database about the cost calculation of these projects, you can create a simple algorithm to make a calculation for your project, make an estimation about cost of your project. So this is simple but important. I can give an example. For example, you made in 10 years or 5 years 100 you prepare 100 tenders for building type construction. And if you have that kind of data, you can easily create a model for your building projects uh, for the big picture, and you can calculate general cost of your building using this algorithm. The, the best part of it, these algorithms will be your company's algorithm, not an algorithm everybody is using. It's not a standard thing. It's about your company culture and about your company data. But this is important for the competitive advantage. If everybody is using the same tool, try to solve the problem, I think it is meaningless because everybody will find the same result, and it doesn't create a differentiation. So if you have data in the background, you can use this data to create an algorithm to make estimation, of course, a total estimation of your cost. Then you can make the breakdowns. Of course, you can check this price, you can enter the details, but it is an important point to check your price strategy. And I think it is very useful. So, uh, as a company, both more technology, we are providing that kind of services to companies to create that kind of algorithms for their company, I think this is a good uh, question to answer using the AI and machine learning. Your question is how can I calculate my cost estimation faster and easily? I think one of the best way using machine learning and your historical data to make a good assumptions. Uh, yes, this is one of them. And the other thing, of course, overhead and indirect costs. Overhead and indirect cost is a bit easier to calculate, and for a company, especially if you are doing the same kind of jobs, indirect costs can be easily you can catch indirect costs. What I mean from the indirect cost, direct cost is the material, and of course, direct used in the construction, and the indirect cost is related about the construction project, about they are not directly used in the construction activities. So overhead and indirect cost calculation is important because it will affect your competitiveness. And of course, indirect cost can be a black hole and it destroys your cost structure. So be careful and just put necessary indirect cost items into the project. So there's a head office cost, and there's for example, if you are managing an area, it's about in a geographical area, you have to put some indirect cost about this geographical areas natural problems that can be, but you have to be careful about this because indirect cost calculation is critical for real cost calculation. So you have to be careful about that. And then project profit margins and risks. Of course, profit margins are directly related to your company. You have to think about it, and of course, it's about about your competitiveness again. But you can understand if you enter different tenders again and again, you can find your smooth profit margin, which will be which will make you competitive, and at the same time, it will make a acceptable gain for your company. Other thing is risks. There are different kind of risks in a project. This kind of projects can be about time schedule. It can be about some challenges in the project. Maybe some methods you will use are not you're familiar with, so that can create some risks for a company. Or other things, uh, there can be some problems on the design, and you have to solve them. And that kind of risks are very critical. And there can be some managerial risks. For example, owner of the project has not a good historical data about the project management, and it will directly affect you as a contractor. So you have to put some risk about that. So risk management is very critical. Because of that, you have to write all the risks related to project, and you have to find then some mitigation ways for these risks. This is very important and it should be documented, because if you have to understand your risk clearly, and then you have to find solutions for them, and if needed, you have to put some money about that risks. Uh, and this is important in the calculation and to understand the risks in your project. Um, you can share your risk with, of course, your subcontractors, your customers, and your suppliers. I think risk sharing is one of the important things to manage a project more effectively. In that point, of course, contract is so critical. Your contract with the owner is so important. And the other thing is, uh, of course, your contracts with subcontractor and the suppliers. These are so critical. And in the contract preparation, I think we should be very careful about not. It is not very useful every time. It's not useful to put the risk just the other side. This is not. This seems A point is good but not, because if you put all this to other side, they will increase the price, they will increase their offer. So when they increase their offer, your costs start to be increased, and this is not a good way to manage a tender process. So you have to share the risk with different parties. And in that point, I think the most important thing, if you are good at something, you can take the risk of that kind of problems. But if you don't good at something, for example, it can be some risks about material. You can of course put this risk to the supplier, but be careful about that. And it is important about the cost management. So don't put risk just other side. This is not a good way to manage a contract or the project. And the other thing is the coordination in the tender process. Yes, in the tender process, we have a limited time, and we have to coordinate different parties, like a normal project, as you know. So, in my opinion, we should be careful about that, because in a limited time, everybody has questions. Supplier has questions. You have questions. Of course, subcontractors have questions, and these questions should be answered with the documents, standard documents. But standard documents are not so, of course, mature at that time. And of course, designs are there are some design mistakes, and you have to, of course, understand them. So everybody tries to ask questions each other, and they try to take answers, and they try to evaluate them, and this is of course related to your risk management too. So this is a bit chaotic circumstances, and you have to find a solution. uh, as a Botmore technology, we worked a digital assistant, a chatbot for the coordination of tender process. What we did, uh, we create a digital assistant. We try to answer questions using the tender documents. Basically, when you ask a question about tender, this can be an easy question like that. When the what is the deadline of the project submission or tender submission? This is an easy question. It tries to find these questions answer in the tender documents, and it gave you an answer. Of course, yeah, it's used an AI and NLP technology, but this is good because some questions are not so complicated in the tender process, and a chatbot can answer that kind of questions, and it makes everybody's life easier. For example, as one of your supplier can ask question about deadlines, about the contract conditions, about some specifications. You shouldn't spend time for it. This already can automatically answered using by a chatbot. So uh, we are offering a chatbot for the companies, for example, contractors or owner, to use in their tender process to answer standard questions. I think this is important to solve a lot of different problems about the coordination. Of course, some problems cannot be solved by a chatbot, but it will be make easier, as I said, everything for the people working on the construction tender process. Uh, and statistical approach. Uh, as I said, one of we can use the past data, uh, and we can use it for the cost calculation, especially for the cost calculation check. Uh, and if you use that kind of statistical approach, we can catch a lot of different things easily. Other thing, if we want to catch the risk ratio on a project, we can use again our historical data, not just our historical data, because a lot of tender process, different tenders are open data. So we can use the tender results to create a database for us and to understand our place and the risk of the project. I think this is important because if we can do this, we can really manage our uh, tender process uh, more accurately, and we can put real concrete data uh, for our risk management. We can use concrete data for our management. I think this is very important. So what we did about this for the risk assessment, we create a simple tool, uh, which is basically using the data in the background and giving insights about your tender performance and risk points. For example, you are working on building projects, uh, especially completed in London, and you have data about the historical data about this kind of tenders and tender results. So, just if you are collecting the tender location, tender price, and tender duration, and originally completed time duration of the project. What I mean, normally in the tender documents there is a project duration, which they define, for example, 6 months. On the other hand, when you really finish the project, you say that I completed my project in 12 months. So if you register all this data, what I mean, project name, project type, project location, cost of the project, and the original uh, duration stated in the tender documents, and the real duration, which is really date completed about the completion date. If you have this data, then you can use a machine learning algorithm, and easily you can make an approach to understand risk of that location that for that kind of projects. I just want to show an example about it. Just a minute. I hope you can see it. Don't know. I will share it. Yes, this is a simple tool which we developed, and basically, I want to show it. Basically, what we are doing now is a cost-time relation for house buildings in London, in Manchester, in different places. We are using historical data. You are entering cost of the project in pound. This is your calculation. You say that, for example, 15,000. Then you enter proposed duration of the project in tender documents. It is for 450 days as a day. Then it calculates duration of the project as day. What I mean? This is the calculation of duration of project according to historical data. It says that in your tender documents, it's stated that 450 days, but according to historical data, about the real completion dates, it seems that it takes 800 days to complete this project. What is the mean of this calculation? It shows that tender document is so optimistic about the duration, and real duration will be higher. And this has two main meaning. One is a huge risk for you about your cash flow, and because it will directly affect your indirect costs. And secondly, you should understand that this duration increase will create a risk on your project, and you should put money about that to compensate this risk. And of course, there is a risk of the project. One is a high risk, and -1 is no risk. And as you see now, 0.779. This means that there's a high risk on the project about the duration of the project. So to catch that kind of risk points is very important. And we can do this. Now we are changing duration, for example, 700 day, and of course, this is goes down because it is now the duration in the tender documents is near to uh, real estimation of our algorithm. So now risk is medium risk. So we can measure risk, and of course, it can measure it, we can manage it. So it is important for us. Uh, yes, I want to go that one again. Yes. Uh, Normally, people are solving that kind of problem with their experience. When I'm working on the tender preparation with tender preparation teams, we have managers and they are very experienced. And when they solve the tender documents, they say that, oh, this project takes a long time. There's a very a risk about this durations, so we should put some other costs about it. They know using their experience. And I always think that if we can solve a problem with our experience, because experience means using data, we are using our own data, historical data. So I believe that we can create algorithms using a bit more data, and they can answer questions like experience. But differently, experience is uh, not objective, it's subjective, but algorithms are more objective. And I think it is important because your experiences can be very different, and sometimes you can feel comfortable, but maybe it's not comfortable. There are a lot of problems, and a concrete algorithm using the past data give you real answers. So, uh, as far as I know from my past experience, and if you are working on tender processes for your in your company, you will see a lot of problem in this process because you can't use data effectively. So my suggestion is basically you can use different algorithms to solve critical problems about risks, about cost calculation, and it will decrease your error percentage. Believe me, every time every company is making errors in their construction tender processes about the cost, about the risk, and of course, directly it's affecting everything. If you make a mistake in the cost, and then of course your profit margins and other things just make everything worse. So uh, so each company needs different tools and which support them in this way. And companies making deep data search and using different type of data effectively will create competitive advantage for them. Generally, uh, I believe that some companies wants to work in this more detail because they know the importance of tender preparation process. So as Botmore technology, we have a simple offer for the companies. If they want to work with their data, we like to help them to create a better solutions just for them, and we want to help the companies to create competitive advantage in their tender processes. So we like to make new research and create new tools. If you like, you can reach me or my team. I think we can find good solutions for you. And other thing, chatbot and digital assistant usage in tender process is a good way to make everything more smooth. And if you want to try that kind of thing as an owner or as a contractor for subcontractors, you can manage especially basic things using the chatbot and digital assistant. I think is a wise way to earn time for more important tasks in the tender preparation process. So this is, I think, all for today. I just want to take your 30 minutes. I hope I can create some ideas for you. Uh, Work with us or not. I just try to explain what the botmore is doing because It's my company. But on the other thing, I think you should work on the data to to find wise ways in the tender to create a better tender processes for your company, and it will directly affect your backlog and your profitability. Uh, Thank you very much for your time. Uh, See you. I hope we can make another webinar next week about a different topic. Please make comment uh, and ask questions, and I try to answer them, all of them, more detailed, because I didn't enter detail of what we are trying to do it uh, as a company, but generally each question are so valuable for us. Please ask questions, please make suggestions, and or reach us, we can talk. Thank you very much, and see you soon.